about how heavy some of this stuff is. It's really, really heavy, and so I promise I won't get too heavy. And I really consider myself a bridge builder between cultures, and so I'm going to take a little bit of a time to maybe go off and do a tangent, so if you'll excuse me, I might do that. And so, to start out, where did I start out on my journey? I got in over a decade of work experience at a casino. At this casino, it starts out, you want to hire all Indians, but it doesn't turn out that way because of the way Native Americans, the way our family structure works. We're not in tune to be on a linear time schedule. And so what happens is that you usually get more white folks working at an Indian casino than you do Indians. And so my experience with white folks at this casino was first standoffishness, and then chumliness, and then getting to know each other, and finally being actual co-workers and fellow Denzians on this planet. For the most part, my experience with getting introduced to white folks was, you're either a casino Indian, rich Indian, or you're a drunk Indian, right? And what that's doing is that's bringing stereotypes, right? And what a stereotype is, what you're doing when you're stereotyping is that you're actually prejudging a person, right? You're prejudging their world, you're prejudging their whole process of life. And prejudging is the same word as prejudice. So if you're still going to stereotype somebody through this unconscious bias or through overt racism, in the very near future you're going to be in the wrong. You might think you're in the right now, but in the very near future you're going to be in the wrong. In order to speak to this fine group of folks, we need to go to a couple of hard places. And so, when you really can only speak to my experience in this world, okay? Going down my path of education, first one of the books that I picked up was a sociology book. Introduction to Sociology. And they had this term in there called stratification, right? Everybody knows what that is. And stratification is a term used by our powers that be to define their place in this world, right? What's your income level? Where do you live? What's your education level? They're all going to be stratified like this, right? And then you put us all into categories, right? What's your gender? What's your race? What's your sexual preference? What's your religion? Right? So, they stratify us, categorize us, to marginalize us. Okay? And what that does is it sticks us all in a grid. Sticks us all in a grid inside of a box. And we can't get outside this box. Because what happens to us is that after we get done matriculating through life, if you will, okay? When we start out as babies, like that young family up there, Evan, you know, he starts out this world, he sees everything. Everything. Absolutely everything, the whole world. That's how we start out as babies, we see everything. And as we go on through our young ages, we're affected, and I say affected, by our parents. Their hopes, dreams, aspirations, but also their indiscretions. By also their nightmares. We're all affected by this, right? As we go through middle school, we turn around and we're starting to be affected by the education system. And we're getting more narrow and narrow and narrow and narrow. And as we go through that horrible experience of high school where we get clicked off, right? Our walls are even bigger now. And we're getting more narrow and narrow and narrow. And pretty soon, we're going to go into our graduate studies, our bachelor studies, right? And we're going to get periscoped. Everybody heard this term, periscope, right? It's absolutely true and it's sad, right? Because what happens after you get periscoped is that you graduate and you get put to work, right? And all of a sudden our old noses are to the grindstone. What do we see? We don't see anything but what's the peripheral of things. We don't see things that are right in front of us, right? And so we get periscoped. We get periscoped. We put our nose to the grindstone. And what do we got? We look through the world through this tiny little thing that's called myopic view. It's called myopathy. Right? And it's no wonder why we treat each other like this. No wonder why we treat each other like this. And that's just what our empire wants us to have. Is to have these walls, all this built in our little walls. Right? Because that's not such a bad thing. Everybody's got to struggle for 4 walls and a roof, right? Right? Everybody's got to build their nest. Right? And so, but what was going on in America pre-contact? Pre-Columbian contact, what was going on in America? Well, you know, there was a fantastic culture. We had art, we had trade, we had international trade. And pre-contact, what people don't realize, and not even many Indians realize this, not even many American Indians realize this, and especially not white folks, right? What they don't realize is that before white folks came, before they brought iron and everything else that they brought, those berries that we ate in camp, they just didn't roll off the bush and roll through the woods and into our camp. Those fish that we ate, they just didn't swim out of the lake